Hello, and welcome back to another episode of A Transformed Life. I am so delighted that you are here with me today. I hope that you have been having a good week, and I would love to hear from you. And that means leave me a 5-star review on whatever platform you are listening to. So Spotify is super easy, Apple Podcast as well. Hit the 5-star button, and that helps get the word out about this podcast so as many lives and minds and bodies and souls can be transformed and into their highest level, best version of themselves. So today's topic came from a thread I saw on social media, actually on Threads, and it was this question of, what do you do when your brain is basically hijacked, when your system says you're done and you still have things to do? And so I wanted to dive into this because I think it was such a great question that 160 characters would not suffice for the answer because there is a lot going on in that question. It's not just about pushing through. Your system is asking for something, and it's coming into alignment of what that is. And of course, that all starts with awareness. And so we are going to dive into this. When you feel the pressure in your system, what is your initial response? Do you feel frustrated? Things still need to be completed and you're either at deadline or you have a lot of things to be completed and your brain is like, no more, we're done. And so do you honor that, or do you push away? Do you hustle harder? And so I want to explore this conversation with you of the real ways that you can honor your nervous system and still get done what you need to get done in an aligned way, without bullying your system, without forcing, and without hacking your mind. So many people live in this, the hacking, it came from biohacking. We don't want to hack our system. We want to love our system. We want to align our system. And so it's going to be through that lens that we're going to dive into this topic today. So we're going to explore some simple practices that help you regulate, realign, and respond. And that way you can move a tiny bit forward while staying loyal to your body and your truth. And this is about living with your nervous system in partnership and honoring your capacity. So, in that moment where you have, so many things to do, it is very overwhelming. That's usually why people are overwhelmed to begin with, because they have too much on their plate and not concise things. And so really stepping back of like, how can I really prioritize my day in little chunks? And I will add a caveat here. If you know your human design type, this is really helpful in how you best work, what environments you work with. And so I would encourage you to do that as well. The other thing too is really recognize what is happening in your system. When you have all of these things to do, you unintentionally overloaded your system, overwhelmed it. So how can you dial that back? How can you either delegate, say no more often, set up your day for alignment success, and really set up your day for honoring your body, honoring your nervous system. And so what really is happening when you're feeling overwhelmed and it's like, I still have these deadlines to do, how am I going to get this all done? You want to reframe it as this is a nervous system response, not a character issue. It's not because you're not trying hard enough. It's not because you're not pushing hard enough or hustling more or sacrificing sleep. It is a nervous system biological response. And so be really gracious and honoring and kind to your whole human system. And so typically when someone is looking for brain hacks to keep pushing through, the response is to stop, pause. And this comes usually, before that happens is, somebody will freeze, shut down, collapse as protection because they have overloaded their system. It's, the fire alarm is going off. And so we don't want to, push through that fire alarm. We need to come back into homeostasis and give our body what it needs. So this is a principle that I want everyone to live by. We do not override the body. We partner with it. So how can you partner with your nervous system? And it's kind of in, the similar things I was even saying earlier of where do you need to delegate? Where do you need to say no more often? Where do you need to ask for help? These are all really great ways to prevent the problem from happening in the first place. Shame can come in to all of this as well. I should be able to do this. Anytime there's a should statement, it's usually self-judgment and shame. And instead, pivot to compassion and curiosity. And this will create space for choice. Oh, I see that I have overbooked myself again. I see that I have 5 deadlines all due at one time. This is a really good place to say, you know what? We are only going to have 1 deadline per day, per week, and really triage what is really happening in your life instead of just managing everything. Really separate it out of oh, I am taking on too much. I need to ask for help. I need to respond instead of react. And so that's really kind of the first quote unquote brain hack to do of oh, I am doing too much. I'm saying no to, I'm saying yes to things I need to be saying no to. So then we kind of move into the third part is, before you practice, name your core agreements. No self-bullying. Speak to yourself as a leader, not an enemy. I think this is really important because I'm really, leadership, when we think of leaders, we think of presidents and CEOs and, people that have a lot of, teams or, government organizations underneath of them. And it all begins with self-leadership first. How do you lead yourself through the fire? Are you willing to ask for help? Are you able to ask for help? Does shame come up when you feel oh, I need to ask for help and I can't? Really good indicators that you could be abandoning yourself and to, set boundaries within your own human system. The second thing is body first. If you feel sick, shaky, disassociated, care for the body before you go to that spreadsheet, before you go to that court document. Now, personally, I have kind of had some deadlines recently, and I realized even in myself that I was taking on a lot and living with CPTSD. I really have to manage. That's incorrect. I really have to align my day and my time in the best service of my human system and in the best service of others. And so that is parsing out my deadlines. It is asking for an extension. It is asking for help. Hey, my system is overwhelmed, mainly due to, or actually all due to CPTSD. I need help with this. And so you can take agency back when you acknowledge the problem. So you can't have agency if you don't acknowledge and have awareness of what's going on. And then from that place, you're able to move forward. Okay, I have time to get this done. So let's say I have 5 days to complete this task. I am going to allow myself, 15 minutes every hour to work on this. And then I'm going to get up, take a drink of water, get some fresh air in my face, do my jigsaw puzzle. These are all personal things. Whatever it is for you. If it is a triggering thing that you are working on, really give yourself a lot of grace and space in those deadlines. If you're dealing, like I deal a lot with court documents and I'm on year 8, going into year 8 of consecutive court stuff. So you can imagine how overwhelming this can be to my system, given the trauma that I have endured from this. And so it really is aligning my system to what it can hold and not pushing it. Like there's no badge for pushing through something, because usually what happens when people just push through things, they end up sick, they have a migraine, they overeat, or maybe they drink. There's some adverse reaction to that because the system is simply responding. So that's being very aware of what is happening and asking for support. So that could literally be asking someone for support, like in your documents. It could, if you're doing it yourself, I'm pro se in my court case. If you are on a work team, it is asking your assistant or another team member to say, hey, I need help with this. Maybe it's going to Upwork or Fiverr. It's delegating. Okay. I don't have time to, it's really not in my best interest, in the highest service of all, that I design this document. I can pay someone on Fiverr $10 to do this. And this is what Dan Martell says of like, buy your time back. And my philosophy is live your life back. When you are aligned, time naturally just flows. And then make micro moves. One honest, aligned step matters more than a heroic performance. And that's just kind of, what I said a few seconds ago. There's no badge for pushing through. There's no badge for the hustle, boss babe culture. It's only going to end in one way, a very burnout, overwhelmed, stressed, exasperated human individual. And we want to be aligned. We want to live in harmony and calmness, and that creates healed societies, a healed collective. So here are some practical practices for when you are feeling fried, stressed, overwhelmed, kind of, pushed over the edge. Your system is alerting you. And so the first thing is really, again, you have to, it starts with awareness first, because you can't make choice without awareness. And so it all comes into awareness of oh, I'm noticing this is occurring. What are these, options I'm going to give to you next? What are some of these options that I can do here in the moment? And it even goes back, instead of triaging the moment, of really setting yourself up for success before there is even a problem. And that's how you reduce problems over time, is that you mitigate them before they even happen. Now, life is always going to throw us things, particularly, in, business and work and family and relationships. And over time, you can mitigate some of those problems by really having an aligned plan, of really having solid boundaries within yourself, within your time with yourself, how you manage yourself, your energy, all of that. So when you hear that voice, like, I'm done, I can't take anymore, here is one option. Set 7 minutes on your clock and journal uncensored whatever you want to write. What is the uncensored truth about how you feel toward the task, the system, the pressure, maybe it's what you deem as unfair. This, shouldn't be happening, self-judgment or judgment of the other person or situation, and just literally brain dump onto a sheet of paper. Ideally, it's pen and paper, not typing. So for 7 minutes, you're going to do this practice. No editing, just whatever comes up. Maybe something comes out that's not even related to the task. And then when the timer ends, you complete 5 minutes of the task that has been overwhelming. 5 minutes. Set another timer for 5 minutes. You either finish the document, you finish cleaning, whatever needs to be cleaned, whatever is, currently causing you angst. Only do it for 5 more minutes. And then at the end of those 5 minutes, you consciously choose, I'm going to pause now and go do something that is regulating for my nervous system. And I'm going to come back to this task in 30 minutes or after I do some breathing movements or, jigsaw puzzle or maybe going to the restroom or getting some fresh air or taking a walk around the block. Then regulate yourself first and then come back to the task. Because if you aren't regulated and you continue to push through, if it's an important piece, you're not going to be present and coherent with what you're doing. And that's an energetic frequency. Like if you are, maybe is writing an email, that frequency is going to come through to the other person of this person's really not invested. They're just pushing through. So you want really clean energy whenever you're doing, anything. And especially if you're feeling like overwhelmed, overtasked, my brain has had enough. That's simply your brain saying, hey, pay attention to me. I need some quality protein. I need to be hydrated. I need to close my eyes. I need to put some blue light blocker glasses on. I need some nature. And you honor that. Practice number 2. Oh, this is one of my favorite ones, and you can do it a few different two ways. It is the press reset, and it's using your body to remind your system there is still strength and safety here. So there's 2 ways. One, you could be sitting on a couch or a chair and you simply take your feet, if you have shoes on, that's all right. I like to, do bare feet, but really press your feet into the floor. And you can kind of count each toe from little to big, big to little, and really visualize your toes, being placed down one by one, and you feel your feet into the ground. Again, this is coming back into your body. So that's one. The second one is pressing your hands into the wall. It's kind of like a variation of a wall push-up. It's pretty much anyone can do it. And you just push your, hands against the wall and you press into the wall. And what this does is it completes the nervous system loop of oh yeah, I'm coming back into my body. And it can be really soothing. This is, great for kids. And then after, you hold for anywhere from, 10 to 30 seconds, whatever feels appropriate for your body, shake your arms out. And this is all coming back into your body, regulating of oh, we're not in danger. There's no lion chasing us. So that is a really helpful thing. And then you can go back to your task and, repeat this. As you're kind of learning these steps, repeat this cycle as many times as you need to. Practice number 3, the rebel argument. So this is where you're going to invite the part that hates, demands, and we're going to instead of fighting her or him, we're going to use self-leadership. And so this could be a part, like a rebel part of your, psyche, out loud. If no one's listening, do it internal. Rebel, I hear you. We are not doing everything. We are only doing this one piece. And you really speak to that part. And then define that one piece, one email, one paragraph, one phone call, 10 minutes of forms, 7 minutes of writing answers, 12 minutes of working on a design document, whatever it is that the task is in front of you. Maybe it's doing the dishes. Maybe it's cleaning the house. Maybe it's doing the wash. Okay, I'm just going to do this for, 6 minutes. And you acknowledge that aspect of yourself that is really struggling, that's trying to get your attention, and you acknowledge it. That's really where this all comes into. So maybe it's not a rebel for you, maybe it's a different part, and you just speak to that part and say, I hear you, we're going to do X, and you really integrate that part into your life so that way that part's not running the show. And you complete that mission with a really clear, aligned way. Practice number 4, environment shift. So change the scene so your system can shift with it. Ideally, if you're in an office, move yourself into nature. If you can go outside for a walk, if you can go on a trail, even if it's just a walk around the block, even with cars and exhaust, that, it's still really helpful for your system. And keep your eyes forward. It's really calming to the nervous system to see what's in front of you far out versus always kind of keeping your eyes down. Keep your phone in your pocket. Don't be texting and walking on the sidewalk at the same time. And then just, again, it's the awareness, it's the notice. Oh, my system has checked out. My system is maxed out. My system is overwhelmed, overstressed, and it is my responsibility, it's my ownership to care for this. And so for 90 seconds, you can do cold water on your wrist. You could I have like the glow stick, which is awesome. So I leave it in my freezer and I use it. If you're watching me on YouTube, I use it. I should probably go get it next time. I use it throughout my face, and that's on the side of your neck. So that's a really good way that has so many different benefits. It has like 32 gemstones in it. And so that's a way to get cold therapy that is not a cold plunge, and it still really helps regulate your nervous system. Stepping outside, getting some fresh air. If you're not able to do that, at least go to the window and either open the window or at least look outside at nature if you can. Dim the lights, and or ideally you're using incandescent light bulbs, not LED light bulbs. And then really like a spiritual song. There's so many amazing frequency songs out there that can really help regulate your whole system and bring it back into harmony. And then after you've done any one of those ideas, you can come back to the task and just notice kind of how you feel. And when you come back to the task, like make yourself a limit. I'm not going to sit here and punish and force myself to finish this before I get up again. Give yourself breaks. Give yourself permission to finish the task in an aligned, responsible manner. Practice number 5, the 3-move method. So we're going to transform, finish everything into 3 tiny defined movements. So the how. First, we're at the top of a page, write only 3 moves. And then second, you're going to choose 3 very small actions. For example, open the document, type the date or subject line, attach one file, or write 1 sentence. And then after those 3 moves, again, it's very nuanced, pause and ask, do I have one more in me, or is this enough for today? And if you've been pushing for a while and forcing yourself to do something, chances are as they say in the book, if you give a mouse a cookie, chances are he's going to ask for a glass of milk and a cookie to go with it. And so chances are your system is going to ask, I need a break. And are you going to heed that answer and give your system a break, pause, and really take care of yourself? Or are you going to keep pushing through and end up with adverse things the next day or the next week or the next month? Practice 6, borrowed regulation, an anchor person, a support person, allowing someone else's steadiness to support your own. If you have some, really safe people in your life, can be really important. And so you just ask a trusted person, when I feel stuck, can I I would like to send a 60-second, voice note and receive one simple next step from you. And this is particularly helpful if it's more of like maybe a coach or, someone that knows you pretty well and is holding you to a high standard, not someone that's going to placate what's happening, someone that's going to mirror back your capacity. So maybe, I can, send you a text, whatever support looks like for you, a phone call. And then, send a short note, what you're facing, what you're dealing with. Hey, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. This court document's really stressful. That's one word I'm working on. I simply needed to share with you what is going on in my system. Thank you. And then they can mirror back to you one clear, kind action or a reflection or encouragement. And then you close the loop of acknowledging yourself, I did it. And this is reinforcing self-trust and connection. Practice 7, the pressure ritual. Create a tiny ceremony around hard and important work. Or triggering documents even. Light a candle that is used only for deep, meaningful tasks. Ideally, it's a beeswax, non-toxic candle. And then play a song that kind of goes with that theme. Again, I'm a big fan of frequency music. You can check out Good Vibes Tribe 1111 on Spotify and YouTube. They have great spiritual, high frequency music with words that really can align with what you're working on. And then take 3 intentional deep breaths into your belly first and speak an intention to your subconscious, such as, I am not performing. I am protecting my future self, my children, my family, my peace, and my calling. And move into that work. If it's a really triggering thing, like for me, court documents and anything really court related is pretty triggering. Just given the history of the case and being a domestic violence survivor, not as an identity, simply as an adjective is how I describe that. And so I really have to honor and really set my day up of like pacing myself. And I think that's a really good word, especially with my running background, like really pace yourself of like, okay, this is not a sprint. This is not a 5K. We are in the ultra marathon territory here. We're going to pace ourselves. We're going to give ourselves grace and peace and clarity in a really tough situation. And we will get through this. And we do it by honoring our system, honoring our capacity, and setting up our days, our weeks, months in an aligned way. So that way our system knows that we are safe and you're not in the red zone as much or very infrequently, which is what we all want. And then, as we kind of like wrap up this episode, our nervous system, when it says it's done, listen to that. It could be a season of pressure. Seasons of pressure is not failure. It is a protection pattern. And so really, really acknowledge and work with that aspect of yourself. And remember, everything's a practice. Keep practicing what you want in your life. That's really what transformation is. Keep practicing. Every time you hear yourself saying the word but or I don't know, you notice it and congratulate yourself. Oh, good to know. I just noticed myself saying that. And instead of, using the word but, and you acknowledge yourself for that. And that's how you rewire your brain over time. Another word could be, especially for women, of, using the word sorry constantly. Really working on that. And so it's giving yourself aligned dopamine responses instead of misaligned dopamine hits. If your system has ever said, I am out, while your life still asks for you, you're not lazy and you're not broken. You're wired to protect yourself. These practices are pathways back to alignment where you move a little forward and still honor your body and your truth. So I'm just going to invite you to, share this episode, screenshot it, and, tell me your favorite way of responding when pressure is high. What helps you realign, pivot, or move one tiny step forward? And, I really hope all of these suggestions were useful for you, that you can apply them into your life. Again, they're, pretty simple things, not necessarily always easy to do in the moment. Really, the takeaway from, all of this is aligning your day, your week in a nervous system responsible way. If you know you have, a bunch of tasks, some of them, you can rate them even from 1 to 5, 5 being more on the triggering side, 1 being not as much, and maybe it's just deadlines, like space the deadlines out. Again, there's no badge for pushing yourself. There's no badge for being the most stressed out person in the world. And your stress is simply going to feed into the collective stress. And so if you're listening to this episode, the more you can de-stress, that also de-stresses the rest of the collective, because we are all connected by energy. Everything is energy. 99.9% is like energy. And so when you kind of collapse those things, then you can really come into alignment. And, when your brain is just like, I've had enough, I can't take any more. It's really good to even take inventory of like, how often is my brain doing this? How often am I pushing myself to the brink? And then I'm overeating, undereating, I'm overfunctioning, underfunctioning. I can't show up for my family. I'm just pushing through. I'm grinding. I'm hacking. That's why I don't like grinding and hacking. We're not grinding and hacking our life away. We are aligning every single day with every choice we make. And it's so important for the collective, for ourselves. And that is how we live with integrity, with honesty, and being the change that we, wish to see in the world. So I had fun with this episode. I really hope you enjoy it. As always, I would love your support by leaving a 5-star review and going to hoperosespeaks.com. I'll leave a link in the show notes for the Foundations Heal Thy product that I have created to help you and guide you in building one healthy habit, one healthy system every 30 days. It's beautiful packaging. We are making new improvements to it every single day. Baby steps with this startup. And so I would love for you to gift this subscription to someone this Christmas holiday season as I'm recording this podcast, and give them 12 months of Christmas instead of 12 days, one day of Christmas. And I really thank you for your support, and I will see you next week. Have a beautiful day.